ended the session in the Watley house. Father was taken there by Lancey Thune, or told to go there and wait for him. You were all kind of looking at the artifacts that you have. Key, the map. I believe you had the shining trapezohedron as well.
Yes, we managed to open the log metal cylinder.
Oh, right, and then you resealed it up because you started to hear a horrid sound that has been following the father in his dreams.
Well, we trapped the trapehedrons in there, and then
Yeah.
I think the scroll we didn't really need to put back in. The scroll was fine.
Kept the scroll out. Let's move to Watley House. The Watley House is maybe the only place in town so far that you've been that seems to be frozen in time and has not changed in 30 years. And there's a banging at the door. It's Lancey Thune's voice. Father, are you in there?
I look to, oh God, names are kind of tough with me right now. The owner of this house.
Lawrence Watley.
Yes, God, we're at the Watley house, of course, Andy. I look to him. He said he would meet me here.
Goes to open the door as
Well,
since the father's disappearance.
While he does that, I'm
Nancy's
gonna just go
in there.
check. Sorry, I'm just gonna go check the windows to make sure other people aren't wonderfully showing up.
Yeah, you look out and it doesn't seem like anyone's really around. And Watley opens the door, and Lancey is staring horrid, has this kind of horrific look on his face. And there is a severed hand at the wrist, hanging just above the entrance to the door.
Was that not there when we came in?
It was not. It's been, I think you've been at his house for a day or two now.
Oh, that's right.
It took Jackson about a day to get there. So this was obviously hung up shortly after Jackson arrived, which is maybe a few hours before.
Jackson will go up and, if I'm assuming there's a commotion now, goes up and looks at the hand. And will carefully take it down from the door, unless Watley says don't or something.
What does this mean?
They're all just watching you in fascination. The hand itself smells of sandalwood and appears as if it had been cleaned quite thoroughly. Fancy.
Who might you belong to?
I never should have sent you here, Father. I knew Watley was into the demonic occultism, but this is too far. And Watley's, I did not do this. Somebody else has done this. What does it mean?
Well, I feel we shall know what it means if we can find the source of it. I kind of look at it. I'm assuming it looks like a man's hand, because you said sandalwood, but...
It is actually a woman's hand. It just smells as if it was rubbed with sandalwood, or maybe even like smoked over sandalwood. It just has this lingering, it's almost hooked into the hand. It smells deeply of It's a very notable scent.
I'll kind of sniff and go. Smells of sandalwood. Kind of inspect it. Does it look like a worker hand or like a lady's hand?
It looks like a worker, someone who there's a little bit of, well, it's calloused, like extremely clean.
Hmm. Calloused, but not quite like a worker. I'd say middle class. He kind of turns it over, probably to the dismay of most here. And how fresh is it? I know it's cleaned, but
I'd say
obviously
it looks as if it hasn't started to become necrotic at all.
Unless something has an effect on it, it hasn't started to rot, which means it's happened fairly recently. Quite recently, in fact. And I'm assuming it was cleaned, so there's no blood trail I see leading from the door or anything.
Nope.
Kind of put it to the side. Although, from what I hear, Reverend, you might have more information than we. With a meeting with, he's not the mayor, what's his name? The founder of the town.
Hawthorne.
Yeah.
I have dealings with Mr. Hawthorne, yes. He's a deeply religious man, avid patron of the church. Ever since your disappearance, Father, he has taken a keen interest in religious studies and kept the church flourishing and donated quite a bit of money. Paid for all of the upgrades and renovations over the past few decades, even.
And which religion might that be?
Yeah, it was
Reverend?
quite a different sort of service than I ever remembered.
If we're talking about the demonic here.
We have only ever carried on the words and traditions of our dear father here. You were my leader, Father Bauer. I have done nothing but try to continue on what you started in this town.
But I did not recognize the ritual you were doing, the tenets, the words.
How about you repeat your sermon to us here, Father, and we can observe. I know it's not your normal setting, but...
Which father are you referring
Reverend.
to?
I meant to say Reverend. I know they're two different people. Reverend.
Lancy says, closes his eyes and without pause starts repeating back to you, Father David Bauer's like, your most popular sermon from what is to you a few days ago.
Sounds normal to us, I assume?
Yes.
Does it sound the same to Father Bauer here?
Yep.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
I thought what I was hearing in last session was like very different.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's normal now.
You heard something unnatural, like unnatural
Okay.
chanting and the words they were using.
But what he's
But-
just said now is
Exactly. He's claiming that they've only ever continued on with your teachings, your parables and your sermons.
uh-huh.
Now I know it's not easy probably, Father, but can you try to pronounce what you heard before?
I don't really know if I could.
Just do your
It's
best.
not a language I even recognize in existence. I mean,
Well, I mean,
what
based
would
on
I
how
roll?
things are going,
What
you
would
might
I-
understand it.
Would I roll for that unicorn? Or?
No, you could, if you wanted to not know or to be able to repeat it, you could decide that for yourself.
All right, well, I'll try to imitate it then as best I can. Hopefully not accidentally summoning Cthulhu.
Yes.
Your voice almost becomes guttural and takes on an otherworldly tone to it. And the words sound very similar to the words that you read off of the scroll. Not like the exact phrasings, but commonalities in language.
Was it that scroll that we opened up last session?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
For it
okay.
now to pop up.
It's in the. It's a scroll. It's in the Mythos artifacts. It's the scroll. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then are any the same words? Like if I'm listening and transcribing, I mean, obviously it's kind of hard to transcribe some of this, but like, because obviously we know what some of the words are through translation, because we have his writing of the scroll and what the scroll is. So
you recognize the words Yugoth, and you recognize that might be it. Check one thing.
okay, there's no repeat words. I mean, obviously maybe the or on repeats or something, but
Hayog. Yeah, the name. Hayog and Yugoth. The only two words that align.
Well, they seem to be speaking about the same topic. And that's more of a sermon. I mean, it's a long shot. Can I try to transcribe what the father's speaking?
Kind of write down what you think, like, phonetically as you're hearing it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I don't know how much that's going to match to what the sermon's talking about, but we'll at least have a somewhat of a reference. Alright. There you go. Maybe it's your perception again, Father. Not saying that Mr. Reverend Thune here is on the up and up, considering he's still dealing with the founder, but you have come back from a otherworldly experience.
That's what people keep telling me, but I don't understand any of this, I have to confess. I just don't. Considering some of the strange things I've seen, I'm beginning to believe anything is possible.
Yes. Although, I guess if we're going to start somewhere, and he kind of straightens his tie and turns back to Thune, what were you talking with Mr. Hawthorne about?
I'd feared that word of the father's return had already spread to him. But he merely wished to give confession.
What was he
I came as soon as I could to retrieve you, Father Bauer. Cannot keep your return secret for long. It is already spreading.
Nor can I stay here in this house forever. I look at Watley as I say that.
You belong at the church.
That was always my place.
Looks to Watley, says, I thank you, Lawrence, for keeping care of him. Your services are no longer necessary. Father, are you hungry?
We ate, didn't we, in the last session? We had a meal. Is that right? Not too long ago?
I don't remember.
Call.
I don't think...
It was evening.
Is this the next day?
I vaguely remember Watley feeding you, yes.
Yeah.
But that might have been the day before. I can't remember.
I think this is the next day.
Thune says, it must be all very overwhelming for you. I cannot imagine, but I would I would be honored to guide you through the town you once knew and show you what has changed in your absence.
Yeah, but there are those who want to kill me so I'm told, and to walk about in town. I walked over to here a couple of days ago, but
Well, Father,
is
I
it
doubt
safe?
they. Well, Father, I doubt they would attempt to murder you in broad daylight in the street. So, and especially if you're accompanied by more than just the Reverend here.
Watley will pipe in and say, there are many strange happenings in Brindlewood Bay. It has been growing for some time. Many believe it goes all the way back to the Deep Reaver.
Yes, I believe they never quite found the creature that disappeared, did they?
No. Some believe Hawthorne to be behind all of it, as he is seemingly in control of many things in this town. Don't know that he would try to murder you. He looks to the father, says, and it was Lancy who had said that, was worried about that. You're the only one who knows that, unless you would have told them while you were there for the last day and a half. But
I think I
he
would have.
says, I don't know that Hawthorne would want to murder you, though. A man of your age disappearing and reappearing 30 years later without a change in his physicality will draw a bit of attention, perhaps unwanted attention for Mr. Hawthorne. Perhaps you should go speak to him face to face and find out exactly what his desires are, his inclination toward you, what his inclination may be.
That may be a step for some point, but for now, I think I'd like to take you up on your offer and letting me know what has changed in this town. If what you say is true and 30 years have passed, then I need to be familiar with this time and the layout to know to exist. If you get my
Much has
meaning.
changed, but much is the same. Perhaps it will put your mind at ease to walk the streets again, once again, of Brindlewood Bay. Boone would look to Jackson and... Would you join us, Mr. O'Neill? Would you care to join us?
I would gladly, though I have one or two bits of business to conclude with Mr. Watley here. It will take but a moment, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, what would you... I guess Thune would essentially try to just stick by the father's side.
Yeah.
He just seems almost like obsessed with you and just eyes still wide, like amazed that you're standing next to him, and you kind of just feel his fawning over you.
Well, the first step of business, I believe I was promised a tarot reading.
This blasphemy! I won't be privy to this. And says, Father, would you come with me? Mr. O'Neill can meet up with us later.
Well, I was liking the idea of strength in numbers.
There's always waiting outside the door.
Yeah, why don't we sit on the porch? And you can tell me of some things first before we go walking through the town. Maybe it'll be less of a shock for me if I to know what I'm to
That is a good idea.
expect.
Yes, yes. Town was much smaller when you were leading the parish. So he takes you outside. Let's have you, Andy, make an investigation roll.
Okay.
I guess you're not as old as I thought you were. You're more middle-aged.
Yeah, about late 30s.
Hmm.
I would have thought.
Yeah, Lancey is older than you now.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, tell us your specialty, your flaw, your
Specialty is scholar, flaw is timid, and hides behind cross.
I don't think either of those apply.
Is personality a thing?
Just do. It's being nice. You had a couple things. I believe,
Compassionate,
listed.
caring, and shepherd.
I'll let you add that in because
Oops.
it's kind of like you're wanting to roll.
I didn't mean to roll the insight.
That's okay. Yeah, so
Alright.
do your personality and your human dice.
If you don't mind getting rid of that, so I don't see it later and think, oh no, human capabilities, and I only have 3 things to tick: human capabilities, occupational expertise, and risk your mind. But I'm not going to risk the mind.
Go ahead and do just occupational to count for it.
All right.
5 and 4. As you walk outside, you see a figure a bit off in the distance that seems to be intently watching the house, but almost as quickly as you see them, they disappear off into an alley. You would have almost sworn that this figure, kind of like long ears coming up and around its tall hat, and you would have sworn they were unnaturally tall and had almost an animal-like gait as they ran off when they thought they saw you, or thought you saw them. Lancey doesn't seem to notice this at all, and there's almost nobody else in the near vicinity. There are people off in the distance a bit. And he starts to tell you about mostly the different restaurants that are popped up and the communities that have kind of gathered to them. Gustaro's is a bit of a high-end, very upclass, upscale restaurant that the high society folk kind of hobnob at. There's a place called The Fishery, which is more middle and lower class. And Yun House is an Asian businessman who moved into the town a handful of years before, and a lot of the immigrants who have been coming here looking for work on the docks seem to hang out there. And The Fishery. He warns you that there are even there's a lot of tension in the town. There are these small gangs of different immigrants that are trying to kind of encroach on each other's territory. And there is rumors that Hawthorne is actually funding both sides and trying to get them to kind of fight it out amongst each other. It tells you a lot of rumors about Hawthorne using his wealth to just control every little thing, and that he perhaps even secretly has been buying up land and homes. It tells you that the Prescott family is long dead, but that his daughter took over the business and is even more of a shrewd businessman than he ever was, and is known for being quite ruthless, as well as being handy with a pistol. Her name is Magdalene. The Kraus family is also as powerful as ever. Eddington, as you knew him, passed away not to this year actually, but when you were there, 30 years ago, Eddington Kraus had a terrible reputation, but now people really look up to them, and they've done a lot of philanthropy and expansion for the town out of their own wealth. Barrett Major is still around, the Kraus family bodyguard, who grew up with Eddington and is quite old now, but doesn't seem to be aging very rapidly, and is still known for being just as much of a rabble-rouser, a scumbag as you knew him. Wilbur Simons became the mayor after Alabaster Fry was found dead. And his son is also involved in local politics and has openly expressed interest in pursuing the mayorship after Wilbur stepped down. John Langmore, who was the youth of the Deep Reaver that you had questioned with Turner as soon as it had returned that first day, and he ran off. He is now the Public Works Commissioner and has served as head of Brindlewood Bay's City Council for 2 decades. Ip Heimwinkel's son, the other member of the Deep Reaver, grew to be very wealthy, captains his own ship, is highly respected. And Vincent Hapsbury, the son of Weston Hapsbury, made a name for himself in the whaling industry after his father's sudden death, and is also quite rich now. And so you essentially learn that everyone who had been on the Deep Reaver, their families have become extremely rich and powerful within the town. Everyone involved in the Deep Reaver excursion.
Except us.
This is not good news. I never learned what was going on, but it's all very mysterious and seemed to be up to no good. And now they lead the town.
There have also been, I suppose you could call them sightings. Our congregation, I only tell you this because of the situation, and that you are still the father. I've merely been your operative in your absence, proxy. But I've heard disturbing stories, things that go against God have been seen in the town, whether it be in dreams or waking nightmares.
I see some things never change then.
The town has grown, and there's a dark side of Brindlewood Bay now. Disappearances, murders. It is all kept quite hidden.
And there's no pattern?
The only pattern, the only thing shared are the tentacles.
When I hear that, I think I would have suppressed somewhat the memory of a big tentacle coming out and dragging me into this other plane. I think that's going to spark a memory. I shudder. Oh. I did think it was only a dream. I know. I don't know what will become of my mind. I don't know how to take all of this.
You are here for a reason. God has sent you to us. He has seen something in your future that needed you here. I don't know where you've been for 30 years or how you've not aged. I have faith. We will discover your purpose together. I wish Mr. O'Neill would hurry up. I hate this house. I hate being near all this. It's blasphemy.
Well, from your description of the town and from what I experienced before, the blasphemy extends across the entire town. Where is God?
Perhaps you have been sent to reclaim the flock and show us the way. Prevent us from straying too far before it is too late.
I will do what I can. I would like to, once conclude this tour of this town, I would like to go back to the church. I think what I need is some prayer.
I too still find much solace within those walls. The only thing I never let them change was your room. I intended to keep it exactly how you had left it. For exactly this moment when you returned to us. Something in me always knew this would happen, that this day would come. This, as he says this, that a little cluster of white moths is just kind of seen flying around not too far off from you, and they just kind of disappear into the sky.
I'd seen those before, right? Yes, they were in the church, yes. God.
They were in...
It's Kip.
And in Kip's house. And the opening of the game was Kip giving you confession, and you saw he was holding one of those large white moths. But, again, it was 10 times the size of these moths. It did still look the exact same. I won't make you roll insight for that.
Yeah, let me last more than 2 sessions.
Let's go inside to O'Neill. So Watley sits down at his table, pulls out a tarot deck, gets shuffling, passes it in front of you face down, and says, "Cut."
He reaches forward and cuts about like a quarter to halfway through.
Watley finishes and lays out kind of a circular spread in front of you. And then one card in the middle. And he says the one card, he says, "This is you." And he flips it over, and it's the devil. His eyes go wide.
I look at him, I guess. I mean,
Realize I don't have a page open. Let me fix this really quick. What if I still... Excuse me. Forgot about your tarot reading, and so I need to...
starting off strong, me being the devil.
No, where would it be? Oh well. I don't necessarily need it, I guess. Says, "The devil is not necessarily the evil entity as we know it, or as they," and he kind of indicates the two men outside, "as they would have us believe. This represents seduction of the material and the physical, to live in fear or bondage or domination. This is you now. Something restrains you. Something tempts you. Perhaps even tries to trap you in it." And then he says, "This card is your past." And he flips it over, and it's the devil card again. And he like kind of looks taken aback and almost confused. And you make eye contact for a second, and then he just flips over another card, and it's the devil. And he flips over another card, and it's the devil. And he begins to go faster as he does it, and just almost wide-eyed, wild-eyed. This is impossible. I don't understand. And the art on the cards, none of them are the same, and they just begin to get darker and more gross as he flips them, and there's gory scenes of hell and torture, and then it begins to show these tentacles strangling and wrapping themselves around people, and the humans and animals alike in their death throes, and the cards are gory and disgusting and gross. And then Watley just like sweeps the cards off the table, and you look down, and they're all normal cards. They're not all the devil anymore. Make an insight roll. And Watley stands up, looking very shaken. And you could see those, yes?
Jackson seems fairly put together at this. and just kind of adjusts his coat. Yes, it would seem something doesn't want us peering into its thoughts, I'll say. Wouldn't you agree?
I've encountered strange things, but he goes to pick the cards up and is just kind of examining them. He says something. Perhaps you were right. There is something at odds with our desires. Or perhaps with your desires.
Indeed. A continued fight, you could say. And then I'll help him pick up the cards. Now. I have no problem with you investigating some of these items and what we have found. But, Lawrence, you must promise to not get carried away with it. For otherwise, and I hold up a card as if to emphasize, something very bad could happen. And I'll lay the card on the table.
You wish to leave any of these items with me for safekeeping? Father Bauer, did you take back the key or the map?
I did not.
Okay.
I'm gonna slightly regret this, I know. But I go, now. And I kind of lay out the map. You've already admitted to astral walking. So, we need to find the source, or whatever numerous sources, what have you, that are at work on this town, and where they are on this map. Or what connections they have therein. Do you think you could do that?
I shall peer as best I can into the wisps of the dream world.
And you know the words to ask now about this high priest and these other beings.
I've never encountered another being in my travels through the astral, but perhaps
Probably
things will be
best.
different this time.
But if you can find mention of such things, perhaps go towards it.
Pick the key up off the table. This was the other item the father carried with him. Perhaps he found it there, or it is perhaps the catalyst with which kept him in this other world?
Perhaps. Or how he
If you
got
would leave
back.
it with me, I would experiment with it.
I shall leave it here. But again, be careful, Lawrence. And also, there's another thing. Can I teach him the spell that I learned?
Oh yeah, you could probably kind of write it down even and explain it to him.
Because I feel like that might help if he's able to banish or keep him back long enough to wake up from his dreams.
I believe that was the ritual of the outer void.
Yes. Not the other one that I still haven't found out the exact nature of and might summon demons.
Would you just leave at that point? Go find the father?
Yes. These are my 2 points of discussion of collaborating with this guy. Also, Lawrence, if you find any rumor or find any items, please share them.
Be the first to know anything I discover, Mr. O'Neill. I had had a healthy relationship with your father, I do feel a duty to you. After all, I may be the only other one in this town that was privy to anything that had happened on that fateful day 30 years ago,
Indeed.
which haunts us still.
Perhaps the
Oh,
haunted
what did you
oak.
do with the severed wrist, or the severed hand?
I'm just gonna put that in my briefcase wrapped in a cloth. Unless he has a suggestion for it.
I think I'll have you roll an investigation on it now that you've taken it down. You've had some moments here to talk about these things with him, and you're taking the time to kind of wrap it up and put it in your briefcase. It's just a base investigation.
Would that be in litigator stuff? I mean, I do handle evidence, but I don't know.
I don't think so in this one.
Curiosity definitely would be it, but I don't know if it helps me at all. So we're just gonna roll the first dice and see what happens.
5. You discover on the fingertips small, it looks like someone took a knife and carved these symbols into the fingertips. And you recognize these symbols, and so you grab the book, because you'd been flipping through it a few times before. This. That pop up.
The bottom one.
Oh.
Let the left hand of a suicide or a victim of murder be procured. Oh, not that one.
The wording of Rivashi.
Yeah, it popped up for a second and now it's disappeared again.
It did?
Yeah.
Maybe if I do this. There we go. Now you can see it.
Let me reopen the. Where's it hiding?
Let the left hand of a suicide or a victim of murder be procured under the dim light of a waning moon. And in the name of Our Lady Kekat, consort of Rivashi, she who recovered his parts from the blind fiends of the abyss under cover of darkness. Let the hand be washed in pure water and purified over flames of burning sandalwood, and then pickled in a salt solution for 15 days. Let the practitioner hang the hand of Rivashi by the wrist above his doorway, saying these words. And then it has an incantation. So that by the power of Rivashi, all unwelcome agents might be seized upon entry and take flight in greatest terror.
Okay. Where are the... What category of the scroll are the spells under, if I'm missing it?
Under Journal, under Book of Iban.
Journal. I do not see that.
Don't?
No. It's only been popping up when you pop it up.
Strange. Maybe if I do... Okay, here we go. Now, is it there?
Yes, now it's there.
And you can only see the 3...
Yeah, the
Okay.
warding has shown up. Okay. She who recovered his parts from the blind fiends of the abyss on the cover. Let the hand be washed in pure water and purified over flames over burning sand, and then pickle. Okay.
So essentially
So
you
the
learn
power
that
of-
the hand was either someone murdered or who commit suicide. And it's actually a protective ward that was meant to keep evil at bay or from entering the door.
Um, Obviously it's old magic, but would I know who Ravashi is, or would I know if this is more? Is this like
Would have
Oriental magic? Is this
No, you would have no idea.
okay?
It's kind of like with all of your history in the occult, stuff in this book are things you like have never heard of.
Okay. So I can cross-reference. So that's what they did with this book, and then I'm assuming Lawrence is. I go, would someone be trying to protect you? Or, I mean, obviously I can think of a few for me, but
No, I believe this was intended to protect the father. Nothing. I have many practitioners and those who are keen on my studies and my interpretations, but none have ever offered a ward such as this for me.
do you feel like you will need it? Or should I bring it with us in case we need it?
If it was meant for protecting the father, then perhaps you should keep it.
Very well. And I kind of fold it up and put it in my briefcase with the rest of these wonderful artifacts. Be careful and well, Lawrence. Kind of bid him adieu.
He says, "Come to me in the morning, and I will tell you of my astral travels and what I have discovered."
Very well.
Probably like 6 p.m. right now.
Okay. And then I guess I go catch up with the other two, because that was kind of the plan.
They are just off of the entryway, essentially. And they're just speaking closely. And as you exit, you see fluttering moth kind of go past you.
I'm assuming out of hand reach.
Yeah, it's like too far away, but kind of notice it. Then you see
Is it going towards a direction?
no, and then it almost just disappears. You don't even see where it went.
Interesting. Okay. I look around and then make my way towards the two.
Ah, Mr.
Father.
O'Neill, finally.
Reverend.
Did you learn anything from your divination?
Yes, but nothing entirely new, I will say. Just that there are forces at odds with us in Brindlewood Bay that they do not wish to be delved into.
It's just like that charlatan to feed you information in such a way that doesn't actually tell you anything. His teachings and what he brings to this town are abominable. He's been tearing people away from the church for years. Perhaps you can put a stop to that now that you're back, Father Bauer.
It seems God has brought me back for a reason. This town is even more worse shape than it was when well, you guys say I left, but I'm getting to accept that now. But there's much work to be done.
Yes. Now, I believe you were giving a tour, Reverend?
Yes, this way. He begins walking off, and everything is just so foreign to you, Father Bauer. Town is 10 times the size it was. You basically lived in a small fishing village compared to what it is now. And even at that time in 1889, you thought of it as a decent sized town with just enough people, and now it is sprawling. You're overwhelmed by the amount of people and the conversation and the noise. It's just, there's loudness everywhere. It used to be you had to go to the town center to find this kind of congregation of people, and you're just every street, every courtyard, the docks, the marina, there are just people absolutely everywhere. And nobody else seems fazed by this at all. You know, O'Neill and Thune are it's quite comfortable and very normal to them to be in. O'Neill would actually probably see this as being a kind of a small town still, considering where he came from. And you do walk by Sweet Sensations Bakery and smell the fresh-baked bread. And it actually doesn't look like it has changed very much. But there's these two small children outside playing, and a woman whom you've never seen before, covered in flour and wearing an apron.
I used to get the most wonderful pastries from here.
Says, oh yes, actually, Regina has not been doing very well lately, and he kind of looks to O'Neill and seems to get a little uncomfortable. Have you returned to see your mother since you've been in town, Jackson?
No. I just arrived yesterday.
I'm sure Devin and Wilhelmina would be ecstatic to see you. Should we go say hello?
I do not see why not. I kind of straighten my tie and brush myself off. Then I shall, I guess, approach.
As you walk up, the woman who was just sweeping sees Lancy, says, "Ah, Father Lancy, so good of you to..." And then she sees the two men with you and kind of stops in her mid-sentence and drops the broom she's holding. "Jackson, is that really you?" And she runs up and hugs you and... Happy to see you.
Yes, Wilhelmina. Though, mind the suit a little. Flour and all. I can.
Why did you not wire and tell us you were coming? What?
It was
must
a
tell
last...
Devin.
Yes, it was a last-minute visit.
She just starts yelling, Devin, get out here. And Betsy, David, come over here. Come say hello to your uncle. The two small children come over, and they're both very young and don't really seem to recognize you even. Hello.
Hello. And I kind of smile.
You come to see Regina?
Yes. Yes, I heard she's not doing... Is these kids talking or the... Or...
No, this is Wilhelmina. The kids, are just staring at you curiously. Maybe even looking up at the father.
Yeah. I'll
Or
do the
because you and
usual.
Lancy are kind of dressed in your uniforms.
I'll do the usual old timey thing and let them play with my pocket watch while I talk with Wilhelmina. But yes, I heard she's not doing well.
No, she sleeps most of the time. She has these horrible coughing fits, and she wakes up in terror in the evenings, well, yelling for your brother, or excuse me, yelling for your, your uncle. No, your father. Jesus.
I know we've confused it. Yelling for Turner or yelling for
And I
Jeff?
was like, wait a second. Who is your actual father, and who was? So she says, yelling. It would be for your father, for Jeff.
Okay.
She might even say that, yelling Jeff's name. She's not in a good sort. I fear she
Perhaps.
will not be long with us, and Evan walks up at this point.
Ah, hello, Jeff. Well, perhaps she's due a visit from the doctor. Has he been in to see her recently? Given her more, back in the day, laudanum? Something. Keep her calm.
His only prescription has been rest and keeping her as comfortable as possible. I've been getting some herbs from Mr. Watley, which do seem to help her sleep at night.
Jackson kind of raises his brow and goes, did he describe what the herbs were? Or,
No. It's that they would help keep her peacefully sleeping, and they seem to work much better than anything the doctor had prescribed, or the words of the church could bring her, and she kind of glares at Devin as he walks up and says that. And he walks up to Lancy. Oh, Reverend, it is so good to see you. And he makes the sign of the cross. And what is it that brings you here? I heard rumors of strange things happening at the church. And Boone says, why, yes, there has been quite a happening. But we must not talk of it out here in the open. He kind of looks at Father Bauer.
yes, we should go inside, and perhaps I can see Georgina and maybe take a look at this medicine she's taking and see if there could be other accommodations. And I'll kind of walk in. Which I believe might throw Father Bauer into... Oh no, Father Bauer was gone by this point, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I was gonna
He was
say,
already gone.
might get some horrible flashbacks of what happened here, but he wasn't here.
Father Bauer, give us an investigation roll. This is more of a general, like, observation and awareness of what's going on around you.
All right. So, human capabilities, does it have anything to do with occupational expertise?
No.
All right.
One dice. As you walk in the door of the bakery, you catch a glance out of the corner of your eye of the same figure. And it only lasts for a moment. You recognize the hat and the long ears that almost appear to be covered in some kind of thick hair. And this tall figure stands out to you, never standing in such a way that you could make out their face. You do almost feel like as you lose sight of them, disappearing into the crowd, their boots looked almost square and hoof-like.
I see
Then
this
it's too busy.
outside.
There's too many people. Yeah, just in the crowd. You would feel like this person might be following you, and this is the second time you've sworn you've seen them. But it's right as you're walking in the door, basically, and Wilhelmina is coming in behind you and kind of ushering you inside. You find yourself in the Sweet Sensations Bakery. You go, they start trying to feed you bread and delicious pastries. And Evan opens the back room, and it also seems like this place has not changed very much either. And they seem to share a very cramped space. Lying on one of the beds is a very aged Georgina. And she's just completely asleep. And you would think she was dead if it wasn't for the very slight rise and fall of her chest as you walk up to her and hear kind of a raspiness coming out of her throat as she breathes.
Kind of.
Wilhelmina walks over and opens a drawer and pulls out these little small glass containers. And there's just a lot of that same powder from the plants that he had tried, the Lao plants that he had tried to get you to take.
For astral walking. Wonderful. All right. I kind of look at it and then look at her. And I forget, during our last talk, did he say how long the effects were? Or that they were just
He
helpful?
didn't really say much about it other than it would help you astral walk and also help with like anxiety and trepidation, and kind of alluded to it as almost a cure-all for anything, any malady or ailment you might have.
No. I kind of look at that and then sit down and hold Jordy's hand. I go, Mother, are you awake?
You get no response, and Devin kind of walks up and says, "Getting harder and harder to wake her. Sometimes we can't at all. No matter how hard we shake her and worry for her not to eat for hours at a time, and then she'll come out of it and either act as if nothing had happened or screaming, terrifying, shrill, fearful scream.
And then screaming my father's name as well.
Times.
I mean, I don't think I can wake her up unless, there's no smell of salts or anything. I just kind of...
You could probably roll an investigation, or like, not really an investigation, but a roll to try and wake her.
Yeah, I'll try to wake her. Coax her out of her dreams with my voice.
I mean, you could tell us if you even carry some kind of type of smell of salt to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why I would, but...
Not completely inconceivable, I feel.
Yeah. Well, with a 5, I think I might be able to wake her up.
Her eyes flutter open. She blinks a few times, but she doesn't move any part of her body. And you hold eyes for a moment, and she smiles. George. It's you. Or Jeff, excuse me. Fucking wait a second. Jeff.
Nope, still wrong.
Jeff, it's you. You've come to me. Finally, you've returned.
No, Mother, it's me, Jackson.
She gets this confused look on her face. Jackson? No, George, what are you talking about? I've missed you so much. Where have you been?
Jackson
Evan
kind of sighs.
sits at the edge of her. Oh, go ahead.
No, Jackson kind of sighs sadly and goes, I've been away.
Evan sits down at the edge of the bed and kind of looks at you and shrugs his shoulders. Mother, this is Jackson, your son. He doesn't even act like she heard him. And is just staring intently at you. And then she starts crying. Oh, Jeff, it's been so terrible. So terrible without you. Dreams haunt me. Why have you not been here to take me from them? Where have you been?
I've been away at sea, as you know. But what are these dreams you speak of?
See a world, many suns and alien constellations, dizzying black crags, taper-snouted denizens with claws and living in bizarre metal towers. And then she's just kind of weeping a little. And is just staring off into the distance, no longer looking at you. It's as if she's seeing something else in her mind. Tunnels as far and long and winding as you could ever imagine. I walk through them and I don't return anywhere. And cryptical floating cylinders. And the doles. And then she screams at the top of her lungs, and the kids start crying, and Wilhelmina drops something in the other room, and Devin leaps to his feet.
I jump up.
I'm gonna have you both make an insight roll.
Oh dear. Here we go. Watch this. Told you. There you go. Every roll I've made, I go up one. Every single roll.
Jackson keeping it together as usual.
What's going on? What is that?
Mother Bauer, her words, as she's describing them, just put this image into your head, one you can see here, and you know exactly what she's describing. You've been there, and you know you've been there. You feel it, and then you hear the sound. They've been stalking you ever since you awoke.
What is this place
you know
you're talking
that the two
of?
are related.
This is familiar to me. What are you talking about?
Her voice distorts, and she almost seems to be in a trance. She says, and she says the word Yadith. And then she is to pass out.
to reference the map.
Wilhelmina comes rushing in, like, what happened? What's going on? Who's screaming?
She just she had an
Nancy
episode.
makes the sign of the cross and just walks backwards, gets away.
She had an episode, dear. It's quite okay.
I really wish I knew what was going on.
Father Bauer, the words you don't know. You know that Yadith is the name of this place, but you don't know what that is or where that is or why you know what it is. But one word comes to your mind. You would maybe even say it, like unconsciously speak this word upon hearing and watching because of your insight roll. And the word is Shub-Niggurath. But you don't actually know what that means.
I'm gonna regret asking. Do I know what that means? If you're speaking it out loud.
I'm going to. There's something in my mind. You guys seem to be so connected. Does this word Shub-Niggurath mean anything to you? And what was the name I felt the place was called? The town? Area?
Yadith.
And
Can you see the
Yadi.
name of it on the map?
The map is not visible,
It's not.
either in Mythos Artifacts or in the Brindlewood Bay section. I was gonna go look it up, but I was like, I don't see it.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Can you see it now?
Is it?
It
No.
shows me you're all on it and that I activated it.
Oh, you mean like the actual visual of Yadith?
Yeah, but does it? And then in the toggle at the top, does it?
Yeah, it's
the
up
name?
at the top. It's just the
Okay.
picture.
Yeah. I thought you were talking about the map we received from the father that might mention this.
Oh. No, I meant like your actual background.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's there.
Okay, good.
Just-
Um,
where would the map be? Mythos Artifacts or the
Mythos
Brindlewood Bay?
artifacts.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I didn't. I think it's actually a handout, Dreamlands map.
Oh, okay. I don't know if that's visible to us.
I will tell you that if you you don't remember seeing that name, either of those words, Yadith or Shub-Niggurath, on the map.
Oh, I'm gonna regret asking this because I feel like that's everything Call of Cthulhu. Does it mention Shub-Niggurath or Yadith in my book?
So to go through your book, you'll make an investigation roll, and you have to use an insight dice.
Alrighty. I feel like I read enough with Litigator. We'll see. Oh, good. This is.
Oh, your insight was a 6. Heck yes. Make just an insight roll.
Yes. To see if I. Nope. Keep it together.
Always.
I'm sorry, Andy. I'm really sorry.
Oh my god. Every time. I've been lucky to make it to the end of this session. Yeah, and if I do, I've set a record.
Black Rite of Yadith. In the 9th layer of the dream state of revealing, soaring on the dimensional currents, I, Iban of Mu Thulan, journeyed to the final days of Yadith. There to witness those gathered in holy mass before the grand temple of she who is to come in City 1, Nazurka and Arch-Ancient Buo stood with 10,000 and 10,000 ringing the temple's great pools, filled with oceans of blood poured in offering. As one did that throng cry out until the ground was as a turbulent mire. Hungry Yadith, with her cities like pierced and ruined armor, trembles. A million and a million flee as a million and a million more are measured by silent poisons greater than mere death. O most high and holy Shub Nigurath, the Nugsoth overwhelmed cry out.
That's a dark read. Do I get what that means in terms of, because it's a spell, right?
You so this is actually not a spell, but you can tell it's actual an account,
Oh,
and almost as a journal entry. And you know that Yadith is a place somewhere in what's called the dream state of revealing, as he calls it, soaring on the dimensional currents. And you're able to understand that Shub Nigurath is some kind of mighty and terrifying holy figure.
okay. Do I get anything else from my insight 6 roll? Like who Shub Niggurath is, or any of these words? Or I mean, I did learn something that Ivan is from Muth Dulan, but
God, what are you in right now? Sweet sensations. There we go. As you're reading this passage, do you read it out loud?
well, not with Devin in the room. But well, unless Devin's not here, unless he went to go calm Wilhelmina or something. But I mean, I don't want to drive him insane. I would more than willingly read this probably. But
There is a drawing with this entry, and it shows a four-legged beast with long writhing tentacles, its body covered in these hungering mouths, and it looks as if it has these large bulging sacs attached to all underneath its stomach, as if it was heavily pregnant. It has rows of teeth and mouths, vomit spawning pods. It has large, broad hooves and is four-legged beast kind of lurching amongst this, just kind of like this desolate landscape that they've just like obviously drew a little sketch of this creature. But the landscape part kind of seems to match what your mother had just been talking about, like Yadith would look like. And you get this image in your head. Shub Nigurath. You feel as if you're staring up at this colossal entity that is just massive and huge. And so you're kind of, while looking at this rough sketch, you can see in your head, you almost feel like you're actually seeing it in person, and it's just towering over you.
Father, do you
Yes.
think one of these might be the tentacles described? And I kind of point to the rough sketch. I'm sorry, Andy.
Do I? Unicorn?
You feel like the tentacles coming off of this thing are the ones that you just saw what was to you 2 days before. And you know this to be Shub-Niggurath, and you actually get the same image in your head that he is when you look at this sketch. You already knew what this was, you just didn't know it, so you don't have to make an insight roll, but now you can see very vividly in your head this image.
This is what took me.
I believe we've gone one step further in solving your mystery, Father. And I kind of...
What is... This is surely of the devil.
One of them.
Some manifestation.
Somehow I feel like this predates the devil, Father, but all the same. Now we know what we're looking for. Or at least one of the things. There are a few other mentions of such things, but if this is the tentacle, must be one of the main things that they came in contact with. By the way, I mean, it never occurred to me to look. There's nothing I see of like a drawing of like a black moth, is there? Or the white moth with the black dots?
You haven't seen one yet in flipping through the book.
Okay.
Lancey says, we should leave. This is... I will pray for Georgina. We'll pray for the freedom of whatever it is that torments her. God be with you all. You should truly stop giving her whatever this drug that Watley has prescribed you. He's a charlatan and a blasphemer. And he'll go and he'll take the jar of it. He takes it. I will dispose of this for you.
I would kind of step in the way of the Reverend I go. Reverend.
Did you see what it's doing to her? You must not continue taking this. Watley never should have sent you there, Father Bauer. I don't know what I was thinking.
You were thinking in your right sense, and I'll reach over and take the vial from him, unless he fights back for some reason.
He wouldn't.
But perhaps visiting the doctor to bring her some other medication as well might help in both manners.
Only the grace of God can save her soul. I am sorry for her state and yours, Mr. O'Neill, but all we can do is pray. These visions stolen away by the Lord and replaced with his light. Wouldn't you
Regardless,
agree, Father Bauer?
Sorry, I didn't understand what you say, Unicorn. Something, Father Bauer.
He asked if you agreed that prayer is the only answer, basically.
Yes. Getting back to the church would be something that would be... I need that.
Yes, though perhaps a stop by the the doctor would not hurt. Are the Dearborn family still in operation? I'll say.
Evan says, oh no, no. The Dearborns left years ago.
Hmm. Well then, I suppose we can just phone a doctor for some medication, and then lead the way. I suppose our tour continues.
I should take Father Bauer back to the church. That is where we belong. This was a mistake. I am so sorry, Father.
I'll look at the father as if, I mean, it's his decision, but the tour for me.
Just a moment longer on the tour. I wish to see the city. And then back to the church to pray for what I find of the city. Or left of it.
I'll walk you out. Here, this way. Shows you out and kind of takes everyone out of the room to let Regina rest. And you're back on the streets of Brindlewood Bay. Fish market has grown quite large. And there's an entire restaurant now attached to it. The police station hasn't seemed to change too much. They're actually in the process of building a larger police stake right next to it. The post office is still kind of right in the center of town, next to the town hall. And as you go by, Lancey says, I didn't believe it would be so, but Mr. Simons has done quite an excellent job as mayor. He is widely well received and is reelected always with a landslide victory. Few even ever run against him, and there's never anyone of any note who has any chance to win, of course. His son is also quite involved in the politics of the town. The Seaside Inn hasn't changed much either. There are a few other places now that people go. Gustaro's and Yunhao's. I must say, Asian cuisine is quite unique. Are you hungry, Father? Should we go food somewhere before returning to the parish?
Yes, I think that would be wonderful. Nothing too busy, though, please.
Well, everywhere is busy in Brindlewood Bay.
Very well.
Well, Father, would you like some of this Chinese food? I can attest to its interesting nature. Might pique your curiosity.
Sure. I'll try it.
Boone says it's that or fishery if you're craving seafood.
No. After the Deep Reaver incident, I'm a bit put off on seafood.
actually mean to change to that one. But as you move through town, also and past town hall, there is a large museum that you see, and there's a huge advertisement for view now the elusive 1888 mummy. And it's this big sign talking about where it was found, where it was from, and on display, courtesy of the Hawthorne Foundation.
That's... Where do I see this?
In front of the museum.
Oh,
there's
yes,
there's a
okay.
large museum that's called the Brindlewood Bay Museum of Dolls and Oddities. Because in your time, Brindlewood Bay had a lot of the doll makers.
Tell me, do they...
And Lancia...
Are dolls still a popular thing here? In your time?
Oh, yes. There's always been a tradition of Brindlewood Bay. In fact, Mr. Atherton is the curator of this museum, or rather his son, as you knew him. Atherton, 30 years ago, was kind of known as being a bit of a kook. Lawmaker, extremely religious. You knew him well, and he had a small son. His son is the curator of the Brindlewood Bay Museum, as you're just told. And Lancey, as you're just kind of walking past and seeing it, it's pretty near Town Hall. And as yes, this museum was... It only recently opened. Construction finished last month. And it's been quite popular. I don't know about this mummy that Mr. Hawthorne has brought to display, but people do seem to lean towards the... well, the grim and the occult, I fear. I told you, Father, you have returned at a time of tribulation and change in Brindlewood Bay. You've been sent here to right the course, put us back on track, onto God's path.
That has always been my mission, and I will do what I can.
The mummy is a bit macabre, but well, perhaps we can stand later together in the square and preach the word.
That was never really my way. From the churches where I led.
There's so many people. Must find a way to bring them there. The city has grown. Not everyone comes of their own volition. It is not the same as it was when town was quite avid in their beliefs. We all shared that. And you arrive at Yoon House kind of during this conversation. It's pretty lively in there. There's a lot of types of people. You can almost tell Father Bauer, who is kind of a native of sorts, or more of an English type or an American type, and there's a small gaggle of men and a few women who are speaking with Irish accents. There's mostly an Asian element. They look like mostly dock workers or fishermen. Everyone's very lively and happy, and it's just a very different experience from 30 years ago, where it was almost exclusively white Americans who had migrated there, the furthest from Boston. And now it seems many and all types are making their way to Brindlewood Bay. The food smells delicious as you walk in, and it's probably nothing you've ever eaten before. You've probably never smelled this kind of cuisine even. And you're seated at a table. Four of you, or the three of you, excuse me.
Don't worry, Mystery Man's probably around the corner somewhere. A reserved seat for him.
Man comes up to you. Mr. O'Neill, it's so good to see you. It's been some time since you last visited us here. Will you be having
Indeed.
your regular?
Yes. Yes.
Of course, of
And
course. And gentlemen, hello, welcome. Reverend Thune. I did not expect you to be here, much less with Mr. O'Neill of all people. And who is your other handsome, gracious friend here? And he looks to the Father Bauer.
Father David Bauer.
and I'll give a Jackson will give a chuckle, as if you don't know Yun Hao.
There has been mutterings and murmurings of a man returned from beyond, or from the grave, or from the past. And he looks at you and winks and says, I don't believe much of it, of course. You look just a man to me.
Yes.
Well, I know you've never been in here, and while your attire is a bit dated.
Yes, this is my first time.
A customer is a customer, of course. I welcome you, Father David Bauer, to my establishment, Yun Hao's. I am Yun Hao. And he bows to you, very aggressively almost. Kind of calls over to one of his waiters. They speak in Mandarin. And just a bunch of food. They start bringing over food for you that seemed to almost have been ready to go. And it smells just of a bit fishy, but there's some like nice, delicious broths as well, and lots of noodles. And as you're eating, you start to have, as you're eating some noodles, slurping them in, you remember the tentacles pulling you. And now the noodles look like the black tentacles of Shub-Niggurath.
I drop
You
my
see that everyone around
cutlery.
you, it looks like everyone is eating just these disgusting black noodle-like appendages and tentacles, and there's these red pustules that appear to be oozing and blistering, and people just popping them in their mouths and smiling and happy, and look like they're eating the most delicious meal of their lives. Even the people at your table, Lancy and Jackson
Wait,
are.
Yeah, I'm going to drop my cutlery and just jump like, whoa, and just stare around.
When you do that, a few people look up at you, and then suddenly there's an earthquake. And the whole building begins to shake. and you hear this noise coming from the skies. It's just panicking as the ground shakes and the whole building feels like it's about to collapse.
What is that? What is going
And
on?
it stops almost as soon as it started. And people kind of start coming out from under their tables and looking around and kind of laughing a little nervously almost. A handful ran out of the building.
Okay, so that happened for all of us, not just him.
Yep.
Okay. go.
Um, yeah.
I would kind of help Yunhao off the floor. That's been happening recently?
It's the second earthquake this week, actually.
But that sound, that's not the sound of an earthquake. It seemed to come from above.
What sound?
You didn't hear it?
Oh, I only heard the shaking and the silver landing on the floor.
When was the first earthquake?
Oh, I don't know. A week ago. I'll tell you like what day, but keep it abstract.
Gotcha. Well, Yunhao, have you heard any more interesting rumors about other than our dear father here?
Information you seek.
I always seek
Well.
information, you know this. I kind of smile. It's my job, after all.
Let's have you roll an investigation.
And I feel like this is definitely in my wheelhouse. Well, that's unfortunate, but, you know.
Two. That's yeah. He says. Well, so you can also re-roll any roll, but you have to use an insight dice if you do. That's another rule.
Why not? Let's be fun with this.
And your insight is your
Look
highest.
what you've done.
Haha, I've gone up one.
And you gain some insight.
Now we're tied. Welcome to my world.
He says, come with me, you and your friends. And he takes you in the back into his office. He says, I have been thinking of you recently, actually. I've come across an item of quite a bit of interest, I think you might find. And he pulls out into it. He pulls out a key, unlocks the bottom drawer of his desk, pulls out this small, what almost looks like a music box, this kind of container that looks quite old and rather antique. And out of it, he pulls this. What's that?
Oh dear.
This small orb. And it almost looks like it's made out of crystal or a very thin glassy material. But it's definitely not metal. But it's as hard as metal, or harder, as far as you can tell holding it. It's just this very dense ball. It has all these holes on it. It's very porous. I bought this off of a trader in Boston. He wouldn't tell me where he got it, of course, but... well, there were stories of these in my culture. It is called a crystallizer. What it's supposed to crystallize, I don't know. But I remember my grandmother talking of an object such as this, described just as this looks. Them to be something rather paranormal, I believe is the word in your language. And Lancy like makes the sign of the cross and stands up, and he says, "Everywhere we go. Don't you see, Father? Devil seeps into every corner of Brindlewood Bay." Yunhao laughs. Says, yes, Christianity is always quite worried about what it doesn't understand, isn't it? Have no fear, Reverend. It does us no harm. I've had it for some time now. I'm still as good as ever.
Do you mind? Jackson will say as he tries to inspect the thing.
Like, kind of gives you a wave, like, please go ahead.
Can I investigate it? I don't know if that's part of my already investigation roll, but...
You would have never seen anything like this. While you're holding it, it starts emitting this almost like very light whistling sound. And Yunhao leans forward and says, "Well, it's never done that before." He's just like away from it. He's like standing at the door. Seems like he's so agitated he wants to just leave.
Oh, the Reverend.
Tap it, and it sounds hollow, and it looks quite fragile, but it is extremely heavy. You would guess it weighs even almost 20 pounds. Like when you get to pick it up, you almost drop it unexpectedly. How unexpectedly heavy it is.
No mention of this in my book.
Let me look in your book real quick.
I regret almost asking this question every time, but I feel like it's pertinent.
Let's see. Doesn't look like, even if you just glanced through the book quickly, you can't find anything that looks like this or talks about whatever this might be.
And through my occult studies, I've also never heard of a crystallizer, you said?
Nope.
So I hold it and it still whistles, same tune, it doesn't like change or it doesn't like increase as the longer I hold it.
Nope. It kind of just lets out this weird whistling sound and then it goes away. It's almost intermittent.
Huh. Just because I feel like this might be a question asked. Father, you hearing the same thing?
Am I?
He does. Yeah.
No more additional words or something. Okay, cool. Well, that is interesting. And you're reluctant to, but look, I see nothing in the because it has holes, right? So there's nothing in the holes that I see.
No, as you look into it, it's just blackness.
And at the risk of one of my fingers, if I put like a finger in, nothing.
They're almost too small to even fit your whole finger in.
This is a Chinese place. They have an incense stick I can put in.
Yeah, you could grab one and it almost like goes in and you can fit the entire incense stick in there up to where your fingertips are holding it. But the incense stick should have been at least twice as long, maybe even longer than this orb. And when you pull it out, it does not break.
And it's not covered in anything, like crystals, for example.
No, it looks the exact same, but it
Huh.
should not be possible to stick it in the entirety of the orb.
Do you have some water, Yunhao?
Like have a little carafe on his desk and he'll pour some into a glass for you.
I will pour it into one of the holes. And see where it goes.
As you pour it over the thing, so the orb is essentially palm-sized, and the water that falls in the holes doesn't come out, but all the other water there's water pouring off of it, but there's none dripping out of it. Almost creating this gap.
Yeah. Well, I was also more seeking to. So, like, if I pour it down one of the holes, I keep it straight, and it doesn't come out the other side. Nothing. Like if I just carefully into one of the holes.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no. You almost can't pour it carefully into one of the holes.
Okay.
Like the holes are really small and they're kind of all over.
And then
You can pour like a little stream of water onto the orb, and you'll see like the water that goes in the holes definitely doesn't come out the bottom.
And if I pour it back upside down, does it come back out, or is it just doesn't do anything?
Nothing.
That's disconcerting. I would like to submerge it in water.
Nothing happens.
Okay. I take it out of the water and I kind of, Well, it has some interesting properties, that's for sure. By the way, when I said submerge, I mean like completely submerge, like put it in like the
I figured. Yeah.
And this might seem a little odd, but if I were to put it into the water and listen to it, does the whistling sound different?
No.
Okay. Oh, I had the golden egg from Harry Potter for a second. All right. Well, it's definitely something to be investigated. It has some interesting properties and it goes somewhere, but what else did you said it was described in your youth. Was anything else more described about it, Yunhao?
No, I barely remember the stories of my grandmother. She talked about quite a bit. I did remember this. I could add it to your tab if you'd like.
Oh, it's up for purchase, I'll say.
I've been holding on to it for you.
Yes, if you're willing
Seemed like
to part
something
with
you
it.
would be interested.
Yes, of course. And I'll kind of just let me get out my checkbook, and I shall get out my checkbook and write him a check. And
Well, I was hoping for something a little less traceable.
sorry. Yes, of course. And I'll pull out my wallet. I just didn't know how much cash I carried on me, but I'll
Perhaps
assume enough.
even, perhaps even I shall let you have it if you would do a favor for myself.
Well, it depends on the favor, Yunhao.
Hmm. I know that you have some sway and your knowledge of litigation, but I also know of your other interests and just how far you're willing to go for it. There is something that I wish to acquire. It is kept deep in the Kraus family mansion, framed in a simple but elegant wooden frame, is a large white moth. It was on, excuse me, it was inherited, or rather gifted, to the Kraus family by the inheritor, who promptly left Brindlewood Bay without a word or a trace. If you can obtain this moth for me, then, well, the orb is yours. In fact, I'll
May I
let you
ask,
keep the orb now if you agree to get this item for me.
may I inquire why you wish to obtain this moth? Of which I have been told well, one of which several I have seen around town, and also my father spoke quite in depth about.
Unfortunately, that is not any of your business. You must understand, I can't, I have confidences I must keep.
Ah, so it's
I
not for
thought of
you
you
then.
when I saw this sword. He just kind of like shrugs his shoulders and holds his palms up. It's as simple as if you will get this moth for me, Mr. O'Neill, then I shall let you have this orb right now.
That is simple. You said inheritor. Would you happen to know from whom it was inherited?
It was, I believe the last name was Heimwinkel?
Oh, Kip. Alright. Jackson will kind of think on this, and then I'm sure Thune is already out the door, but the father's probably still here. I'll
Yes.
I believe that can be done.
I knew I could rely on you, Mr. O'Neill. You're very much like your father.
I'll take that as a compliment. I chuckle.
And
By the way,
you
was he?
did know Clancy had, well, I guess the father, you would probably know this too, Jackson, is Kip Heimwinkel did have a son who grew to be well respected in the town and is still a captain. But, you know, Yunho, I don't know, name right? Yunho said that he had disappeared. Know what he just said.
Kip or the captain?
The captain with his Kip's son.
He's missing currently.
Yes. John Heimwinkel.
Okay. Well, I shall have to set up an appointment with the Krauses then. Would I know? I mean, he'd be real old now, probably. But, you know, the butlers are real old. Is what's his name still around? I gotta find his name now. Who was Turner's friend?
Yeah, you're talking about Jonathan Willoughby, the Kraus family servant.
So I didn't see him in the other one, but I don't know if that just means that he's not there, or he's dead, or...
You probably wouldn't know.
Well, that's something to investigate, I suppose. Alright. Well. Also, Yun Hao, if you come across any more information relevant to our father here, any other relevant rumors, I'm sure you know where to find me.
The orb, when you go to put it in your briefcase, you find actually that your briefcase, when you were holding just the orb, it felt immensely heavy. When you sealed away in your briefcase, it now, like, it feels as if your briefcase weight did not change at all.
Just because this is a threat of things that can happen, it doesn't seem to react to anything in the briefcase, right?
No.
Your briefcase is a bag of holding.
Yeah. I just want to make sure the crystallizer isn't going to eat the other artifacts in there or something, but doesn't start singing a different tune when it sees the book.
No, it appears to only let that whistling sound out when you hold it. Clancy is agitatedly waiting outside in the street, outside of Yunhao's.
Okay. I shall seal that thing away then, and then, well, I guess we did promise to go back to your church, Father.
Yes, I think it's time for that. I need to speak to God, and there I feel safe.
We go ahead taking it out of investigation. Start heading back towards the edge of town where the church lies. When you arrive, gosh, it's probably going on, like, it's after dark at this point. The church is rather lively. Lancy is not the only, he's the church leader currently, but there are a lot of other people that work there now and kind of watch over it, so he's not there all the time. But nothing seems too out of the ordinary, really. You go inside. And people start immediately kind of rushing up to you, Father Bauer, and trying to touch you and like
What is
worship
this?
you, and they're
Whoa.
praising you. Father, out of time. Father, it's him. It's him. It's Father Bauer. And there are older people there too, a lot of older people who you recognize as townsfolk from your day, and they're just staggered that you're standing in front of them unchanged. And it's just becomes almost this overwhelming force of people trying to get to you and enthralled with you. And again, you hear just this chanting sound.
Coming from these people?
And it doesn't appear to be coming out of anyone's voice in particular. But it looks as if they're all chanting this and trying to touch you and crowd around you. And even Turner or Jackson and Lancey are almost being like overwhelmed by this throng of people. But then the chanting changes again. It becomes the noise that stalks you. And the shadows almost seem to stretch in front of you and in the corners of the room. And you hear this noise and you again see this creature standing there, clinging to the ceiling like a spider. I'll show it in its... Put up here. See this?
That one. Oh.
This white creature with webbing between its clawed fingers, and it has no eyes or nose or mouth, but its face is just a collection of pink flittering tendrils. You feel as if it's staring at you. And then it all stops again. And you, after hearing... And you're being rushed through the crowd by Lancey and Jackson back into the private quarters.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay a bit dazed from all of this. The people crowded me and then everything after.
Lancey says, "I'm so sorry, Father. I should have known that this would happen. A miracle such as your return. People, they're just excited. Nothing like this should even be possible. Let me go speak to them. I'll try to calm everyone down, and then you can come out and say a few words, perhaps. You could lead us in one of your famous sermons. That is why you returned, was it not? It must be."
Yeah, but maybe not now. I need to speak with our Lord and Savior.
Let me go calm them down. You rest. He'll leave. It's just the two of you in there now.
What? Jackson and me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is this normal for you? These occurrences? And this time?
Well, I grew up in this time, so yes, that's normal. Although, the occult and paranormal is not normal for most people. But after Turner and your experiences, I became more acquainted with them. So it's a little more common in my life, I suppose.
I don't know how much more my mind can take of this.
I understand, Father, but I believe you and my father were trying to uncover a mystery of what was going on. And I believe we've made some progress, would you not agree?
Yeah, though it doesn't make sense, but yeah.
So there seem to be a few more avenues we can pursue, and we have yet to even see this mummy exhibit, which I think is one of them. Though, seems we also have an appointment with the Krauses, of which I am sure I can set up an appointment of a generous donor, potential donor, but although my namesake might deter them a little bit, but you know, money kind of bridges all things.
Yes, at this point, I need more information as to what's going on. But I am hoping that some prayer will help calm me.
Well, I'm more than welcome to allow you time to think and pray, Father. I've done the same in such a time.
Yes, I think I will do that now. If you'll excuse me. I get the rosary out.
Quick question. Do I get the feeling based on the ritual I read that I have to hang this hand for it to work?
Yes.
Okay.
You hang it outside the door you're trying to prevent entry into.
Okay. I will exit the father's door. Try to casually hide a hand above his doorway. Which I don't know. Is that possible? Is it a tall doorway? Can I?
You could probably do that. There'd be like a little nook of the door you could set it on. Or set it in, I mean. Or even just like the board at the top that's halfway hidden.
And not to split the party or do that, but I feel like I would want to maybe go see the exhibit. But I know the father's praying. I don't know if he wants to go see it with me. So, but definitely if I'm leaving him here, I definitely want to leave the warding thing with him.
You would know the museum was closed by now. So we could move into the next day even if we wanted.
Wonderful. All right. Well,
Is there something you want to do that night?
I would probably try to inquire or find out about the Willoughby. Just, see what the case is there. I feel like that might be within my reach.
If you asked around town a little, you would find that Jonathan Willoughby is still alive, living at the Kraus mansion, and he and his son are the servants there.
And you said they live at the Kraus mansion?
Mhm.
Well, and you said that their houses would probably have phone or telegram or what have you?
You would probably know that. I think actually the Hawthorns even had a phone, years and years ago. They were one of the only families to actually have a land phone. And so you might assume that you'd be able to, that the more rich families would, yeah.
Okay. Because my thought was, if I call, there's probably one of the butlers that's going to answer. That's just kind of etiquette. But I believe there's an accessible one in town somewhere, if I recall, that I can call on.
It was at the post office.
Yeah.
You could try to go ring the Kraus mansion.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, I'll remind you, like 9 p.m., so.
Yeah, but, I mean, all the more reason probably the butler would answer it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go do
You
so.
would actually, so, well, let's have you do an investigation roll.
Okay. Is this within my occupational expertise? Oh, I know how to use a phone. Occupational expertise, you think, or no?
As a litigator, sure. You could be as if you're like calling to, I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know, you're not really performing law, but it's okay.
Calling the other
Probably
side.
good at ethics.
It says "and probably," although, you know, if I'm doing something innocuous like this, maybe not. But we'll find out.
It rings and rings and rings, and you are waiting almost, and as soon as you're about to give up, and you start to even pull it away from your ear and hang it up, you hear this voice. And then you hear chanting from the other end. And a multitude of voices even. Can't quite make out what they're saying.
Hello, who's calling in the
And
middle
you
of our cult
see-
meeting?
You see out of the corner of your eye the same figure that you swear is the same figure that you saw in the New York's Times Square the evening before. It has almost, its hands are covered in these thick gloves, and that's almost what you recognize the most of. And it has all this hair and these ears pointed, coming out from under a top hat. And its boots look to be almost cloven hooves. And you see this person rush out the door of the post office as soon as you make eye contact with it. And this person was also unnaturally tall almost.
Like, it's a surprise how I missed him.
Kind of exactly. And then I think, what items do you have on you? Okay.
Many. I have many items on me.
I think that would be it. You would definitely make an insight roll. The chanting on the other end was which is the same one. Actually, I'm sorry, the father was the only one that heard this during the earthquake. You hear it now. You hang up the phone, distressed. And your insight goes to 5.
It does indeed.
I'm now winning.
Well, your next opportunity, you can reduce it to 4 by destroying knowledge.
So did I gain anything from that, really?
Whatever you make of it.
Yeah. Chanting. I heard words. Did these words match anything I remember? I know the father heard them. Is what I was
It's
transcribing
the same
earlier.
phrase. It's the phrase you've heard a few times now. The father said it once. It was what he claimed was being spoken at by Lancey's congregation.
And I saw I saw a more clear image of this guy, right? So I don't know if I get a picture, but if I kind of cross-reference that with the book, I don't get any. It's like, oh, this is a
An image of
satyr.
who?
The guy
An
who's
image
been
of
watching
what?
me.
Oh. Let's see. No, there would. Well. Hmm. I don't think so. If you wanted to look through your book, you could roll investigation. And you have to use an insight.
I'm just gonna go insane in the library. That's what's gonna happen here. Or not the library, the post office. Oh, good. I don't activate insight. Wonderful.
Take some time to kind of look through it. And something that really stands out to you is this symbol.
Okay.
Which is labeled as the Scarlet Sign.
That's in the Book of Ibon, right?
Hmm.
Is there a reason it sticks out to me?
Nope. Just something about it catches your attention and it kind of burns itself into your memory.
Alright, and none of these symbols I can read, really.
Nope.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'll note that down, and I'll close my book. And so did it? Obviously, it sounded like someone picked up in the middle of a ritual, unless that was just my mind playing tricks on me. I didn't hear afterwards, like after all that craziness faded, like hello. It's not.
No.
Okay.
It sounded like the phone was answered, and then you heard all the supernatural sounds.
Okay then. Tempted to try again, but I think I'll just call it a night. I'll go back to the.
Father Bauer, did you keep any items at all on you other than your rosary?
I kept the rosary. The other things I didn't
That's it.
recognize as things of mine, or when they were discussing things, so I thought it was relevant. But I don't know.
What would you do after you finished your prayers?
Read the Bible, and I'm hoping I will get grounded from from those activities.
I think so.
It's a shame you can't reduce insight, Father.
That would be nice. It'd be nice if the Bible worked that way, or prayer.
Why don't you give us an investigation roll? Reading your Bible.
Okay. Well, I assume occupational expertise applies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, is that what you said? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God.
You get a 6.
This is a race to the finish line. That's what this is.
Do I make an insight roll?
You flip to your favorite passage, in the New Testament. And instead of what you expected, you find that someone has scribbled on the page of the Bible, and it reads, "If the exorcist findeth himself faced with a recalcitrant or malevolent spirit, let him have recourse." And then there's this incantation written out, and it's almost written like phonetically, but there's also a language there next to the phonetics that is the same language you read off of the scroll. Should be able to observer. And you are overcome by this feeling of dread. And suddenly there's banging on your door, just like this massive knock, not like quickly or someone trying to come in, just against the door almost. And you hear the sound from outside the door. And then you roll an insight.
Oh god, here we go. Hey, somehow. I rolled a 1.
Keeping it together. And you had this sudden memory, and you know that this sound comes from something called a moon beast. You smell this scent of just decay and otherworldly potency. You feel nauseous and terrified. But the sound does go away after a few moments, and the smell lingers but fades.
I'm slightly glad I placed a hand above your door.
Why would she be glad?
It's why you rolled a 1 and why the moon beast couldn't get in.
Oh, I see. I didn't know it was protection.
Yeah, it's a warning spell.
And then, what would you do after that experience?
Well, thinking I was going to be safe in the church and reading the Bible, and then I'm not. Of course, I have nowhere else to go. I think
So
I would.
also,
Go ahead.
let's say the passage you just found written in your Bible is indicated to be some sort of like exorcistic chant or something to drive away evil spirits.
Oh. Oh, there's one outside your door.
So you might feel safe with that Bible, and obviously just tried to get in and couldn't. So
I will. If my door is lockable, I will lock it. And then I don't think I'm going to try to go to sleep. I think I'm going to be far away from the door, holding the rosary and my Bible, and trying to just piece everything together. And not succeeding.
imagine you would probably eventually pass out. The next thing you know is trying to stay awake, telling yourself you have to stay awake, and then you suddenly wake up and it's morning, and The night has passed, and you didn't have, notably, had no dreams of any kind. There is some sun streaming in through the window.
Do I want to risk it for the biscuit?
And then we're getting pretty close to end time, so we can end with Turner's, how he finishes. Oh my god, Jackson, how Jackson finishes the evening.
Just because it's more entertaining this way. And we throw caution to the wind here. I'm going to have Jackson take one of the pills when he goes to sleep.
Wait. You go to one of the nicer hotels, get a room, and I can picture you just sitting in there, like, staring at all of, like, the pillbox in this little glass container and her briefcase full of artifacts and debating to take one or not taking one, laying down. Floating through space, a backdrop of stars and flashing constellations, and in front of you, a black globe with jagged tendrils. It is covered with red blisters and purple splotches. It pulses and vibrates as if it is alive. The sight of it drains your soul of hope, and your body feels weak, as if unable to bear the burden placed on your mind. A harsh angle of space and time bends in front of you and sucks in all the light around it as if a black hole would. You feel as if you are being sucked into it, becoming endless and nothing all at once. The angle bends again, and you can see through it like a looking glass into a world of nightmare and horror beyond anything you've ever comprehended. Then the horror begins to emerge through the bend in space. Nightmare steps through. We'll end session with that.
Okay. All I'm going to say is it's a good thing I have a spell book, because we're going to try some
I
things.
do have to roll a D100.
Oh, jeez.
There's a 10% chance for something to happen for a reason I can't tell you. Okay.
Well, 22 is not 10, so...
No.
I immediately die. It imbues me with power. I don't know. I don't know what the percent is, but I feel like it can't be good. But
I'll tell you when it happens.
yeah. So no,
And you can
black
decide if
right.
it's good or not.
Oh yeah, the black right is an account. The dirge. I'm still kind of confused what it does, but and then the ritual seems to push back them, so that's probably my best bet.
So, Andy, you're not available the next 2 weeks, I believe it is.
Hold on. Let me actually stop the recording.